AD015, the Mini. The groundbreaking small car that made a big impact, changing the car forever in 1959. The brainchild of the brilliant Alec Isagonis, the Mini would go on to be produced for 41 years by 3 different companies in 2 different centuries. The remarkable Mini over the years, with its sprightly characteristics and popularity, meant only one thing. During its 41 years of production, some madness was unleashed. Mini madness. From incredible luxury Radford Minis to performance Yanspeed, and the ultimate Mini encapsulating the excess of the 80s, the Tickford Mini. This is the story of the ordinary little car turned extraordinary. These are the stories of some of the most incredible forgotten Minis ever made. A small car with a big history. Hello everybody and welcome to this video. If you're not subscribed already, please make sure to do so. It really does help me out and you get to see more of this. More cool history videos and more projects like Project 2600R, my 6-cylinder Rover with those triple carbs right there. Some of these you may remember and you may know about. Some of these might be complete news to you. So without further delay, let's get into the video. But before that, thank you to mark1performanceconversions.co.uk and thank you to the Sporting Minis, a page on Facebook. I'll link both of them in the description below because they are incredible resources if you want to dive even deeper into this topic. The Tickford Mini HLE 1000. One of the biggest names in coach building, car conversions and engineering. So good, Aston Martin bought the company in 1955 to exclusively build their models. In 1981, Tickford became its own entity again, forming Aston Martin Tickford, providing engineering works for major car companies, producing the MG Maestro Turbo, Tickford Capri Turbo and the Sierra Cosworth RS500. Tickford in 1984 would produce an infamous car, a humble pie with fireworks as a filling, the Tickford Mini HLE 1000. This car was produced on the request of a Saudi Arabian prince and perfectly encapsulated the excess of the 80s, costing nearly the price of 6 new Vanden Plas Metros at £50,000 in 1984, which is approximately £150,780 in today's money. This car was an incredible show of craftsmanship. Inside, a rich leather interior with Recaro seats, a wood veneer dashboard and an incredibly high-end Clarion sound system. On the outside, flared wheel arches, a blanked-off grille, black vinyl roof, new wheels and a distinctive spoiler with its most controversial change, the square stacked headlights. The car was made in left-hand drive for the Prince to drive in Europe and would cover 13,000 miles in total. The car would go on to be sold by Bonhams to a private collector who now owns probably the most desirable Mini in the world. There is a speculation that 12 more were made, but evidence hasn't been forthcoming, which means this is the only Tickford Mini to exist. The Yanspeed Mini SCA. In 1966, a Mini would be created at Yanspeed as an engineering exercise. A Mini that would go on to become a record breaker, becoming the fastest 1-litre saloon in the country. Yanspeed took a Mini and extensively modified it, fitting a 1966 Formula 2 Cosworth Ford engine into the humble Morris Mini after reaching the limits of the A-Series. Therefore, the Ford SCA unit was the obvious choice. This engine would still undergo some modification, a brand new steel crankshaft, timing cover modifications and a reworked bell housing so it could fit nicely into the engine bay. Weirdly enough though, the SCA engine looked right at home in the tiny engine bay of the Mini. The suspension was also changed to hydroelastic units, lowered all round with special valves fitted in the system so each corner of the Mini could be regulated independently during cornering. The car would go on to prove the prowess of Yanspeed's engineering when it set a new 1-litre lap record of 1 minute and 10.4 seconds at Silverstone. The fate of the Yanspeed SCA Mini is unknown, and if you have any information on this Mini or any of the others featured, let me know in the comments below. Mini Sprint. The Mini Sprint is a concept developed by Ville Trickett and is a full conversion involving a chop and channel. The pillars are de-seamed and roof profiled by around 10 degrees and the height of the roof is reduced by 2 inches. The only part of the Mini's panel work that isn't modified is the bonnet. The results of this were a more aggressive look and superior aerodynamics, as well as a stiffer body shell. These cars were marketed through BMC dealer Stewart and Ardern with the option of performance modifications as well. The popularity of the Mini Sprint and the never-ending dedication of Rob Walker and Ville Trickett meant quite a few cars were produced, but exact numbers remain unknown. Creating Mini Sprints is something Ville Trickett did right up until his death at 87 years of age. His passion for motorsport was simply unmatched. The Mini Sprint Traveller. The Mini Traveller was an icon of the 60s, built between 1960 and 1967. This Mini was 50 kilograms heavier than the original but offered a lot more room with its 25cm length increase and practicality of its barn-style rear doors. The Mini Traveller was another subject of conversion by Neville Trickett, becoming the Mini Sprint Traveller. The new Mini Traveller had its roofline lowered considerably, new lights added and could be equipped with the 850, 998 or 1275 BMC A-Series engine. This was available from Causley Garage, ran by Rob Walker. The car is quite a mystery though. With no sales numbers, there is supposedly only one made, which is the one that appears in this historic photo. This car is reported to have been sold to a customer in Australia where it survives today, in its original Rob Walker blue. In late 1966, Car and Conversions would go on to build their own Mini Sprint Traveller with a sprinted shell from Rob Walker's garage, the ERA Mini Turbo. ERA, or Engineering Research and Application, have a rich history in motor racing, dating back to 1934 with their first, the ERA 1.5 litre. In later years, ERA would go on to be best known for its sale to Bristol and then Solex for their work on carburetors and fuel systems. Inside, the ERA Mini Turbo would have a completely new interior. Gone was the almost bus driver seating position thanks to some specially designed sports seats. Inside, the car was fitted with deep sound deadening and trimmed with the finest Connolly leather. The ERA's engine would be the A-Series bored out to 1300cc and turbocharged, producing 94 brake horsepower. But this engine wasn't just about power output. And thanks to ERA's careful campaign of testing, their engine was tuned in such a way where it was almost docile in traffic, providing all of the refinement needed for the modern motorist, but when pressed it could deliver the excitement required. The suspension and brakes were also changed, lower front suspension arms with 1.5 degrees of negative camber to minimise torque steer, and new dampers all round to provide more refinement to the ride and handling. The 4-piston calipers at the front and the vented discs, in conjunction with the modified twin-piston rear drum brakes, brought the powerful Mini to a stop. This package was completed with a Dennis Adams styled body kit and single-piece alloy wheels. The ERA Mini would go on to be sold through Austin Rover dealers in 1989 and 1990 as a limited edition. 436 were produced, with 346 of those being exported to Japan. The ERA Mini remains the fastest production classic Mini ever. The Hooper Mini and Radford de Ville. Hooper Motor Services, a coach builder based in London, traditionally made luxury carriages, both horse-drawn and of course motor-powered, with the motor cars being built usually for Rolls-Royce or Bentley. This would all change in 1963 when actor and comedian Peter Sellers ordered something truly special, a Mini that would cost 4 times the amount of the basic production Mini. Costing in 1963 £2,600, which in 2024 would be around £68,000. The car, as expected, was trimmed in leather, with wood-capped doors and a wooden fascia on the dash. There was more though. The Mini's small heater system was upgraded as well to bring the Mini upmarket even further. Other luxury appointments were electric windows, vinyl sliding sunroof and Wilton carpets, all in a Mini from 1963. Perhaps the most striking was the design on the outside. The car was painted by hand in a wicker style extending from the back of the front wheel arch all the way to the rear bumper. This car would have more of an impact than a one-off, when in 1963 the car was cloned by Radford for the Pink Panther sequel A Shot in the Dark on request of Peter Sellers. This started the trend in the 1960s for luxury Minis, which ultimately gave birth to the Radford Minis. These new luxury Minis were built on the template of Peter Sellers' Mini. With Harold Radford seeing the potential of this new market, the company announced 3 new off-the-shelf conversions, which were devised by Graham J. Arnold. These 3 conversions would be marketed as the Mini de Ville with the following trim levels: Deluxe, Bel Air and Grand Lux. There was even an option for a hatchback conversion. In October of 1965, Radford would replace the original lineup with the de Ville GT, featuring several improvements. This was mainly due to customers of the 3-tiered luxury Minis still opting for further options. So Radford devised the de Ville GT as a base, with customers customising it as they wished. Radford would continue to go on producing Mini conversions like the de Ville Mark III based on the Cooper S until 1975 when it ceased trading. In 1982, another oddity spawned, the Metro de Ville, created by Austin Rover dealer W&H Williams, with a vinyl roof, chromed wheels, white wall tyres and suitable vinyl graphics. This though wasn't anything to do with the now wound up Radford, but this wouldn't be the last of the de Ville name. The Mini de Ville wouldn't die with the company that made it, with Chris Humberston reviving the Radford name in 1989, with this operation continuing until 1996. It isn't known how many Radford conversions were carried out, but it is known that Peter Sellers had 3 of them. The Wood And Pickett Margrave. Legendary converters and coach builders Wood and Pickett were founded by Bill Wood and Les Pickett in 1947 after learning the trade at Hooper and Co. In the early 60s, it was decided that Wood and Pickett needed to have their own piece of the luxury Mini action, going up against the already well-established Radford. This led to the creation in the mid-60s of the Mini Margrave, their own take on the Radford conversions, offering a new signature dashboard and ways to make your Mini even more bespoke, replacing the standard Mini headlight units with Mercedes-Benz headlights. The Wood and Pickett Margrave was so popular even Twiggy adopted an early one. And in 1969, with the launch of the Mini Clubman, Wood and Pickett would create their own version, offering it with Vauxhall Ventura headlights. The Wood and Pickett Mini business would be given a boost in 1973 as well, with the oil crisis, as large luxury car owners wanted to downsize but without losing the refinements of their larger vehicles. This meant the cars offered by the firm were a perfect choice. These conversions would go on until the mid-90s, with 1994 seeing the creation of one of the most expensive Minis ever for a Crown Prince, complete with a TV, karaoke system and a fridge. This Mini cost around £50,000 back then, which is around £124,000 today. It isn't known how many Wood and Pickett Minis were produced, but these rare cars sometimes come up for sale. Wood and Pickett to this day still sell classic Mini parts and accessories. The Crayford Mini. Almost 30 years before the first production Mini convertible, Crayford Engineering based in Kent turned their attention to the classic Mini, when in 1963 they introduced the Crayford Mini convertible. The total cost of the conversion was £195 back then. These cars were available through Chelsea-based firm Motortune. Downton Engineering Works. Perhaps one of the biggest legends in the world of the Mini and BMC tuning is Downton Engineering Works. Once a sleepy little garage taken over by Daniel and Bunty Richmond in 1947 grew into a conversion empire. This all started when a customer requested the firm in the mid-50s to fit a tuning kit to his Morris Minor. Daniel Richmond found this kit terrible to fit, but it wasn't just about the fitting. The car became horrible. Temperamental to drive and the fuel consumption it significantly increased. This resulted in Mr. Richmond telling the customer he could, if required, provide a better kit himself. This gave birth to the first Downton tuning kits, from Austin A40s to Humbers and of course Morris Minors. Downton would go on to become experts in the BMC A-Series engine. The business that started as a small rural garage became in 1961 Downton Engineering Works, covering both full conversions and parts. Later that year, a Downton converted Mini Cooper featured in Autocar. It was quieter, faster and more fuel efficient than the standard Cooper. All of these improvements as well came with a top speed of 100 miles per hour. Downton Engineering would produce kits and conversions up until 1974 when the engineering works closed down. The Broadspeed Mini GT. In 1966, Ralph Broad of Broadspeed turned a standard Mini into a fastback with a combination of glass fibre and steel, offering several variants. The entry-level version was an 848cc model. This was followed by the GT based on the 998 Mini Cooper. The GTS was an upgraded GT with a bespoke dashboard and plastic bumpers. And the GT Super Deluxe topped the range with its 1275cc engine. There was one more car available to select clients, the GTS Competition. It could only be ordered on request if you were chosen by Broadspeed. Unfortunately, it is not known how many of these cars were produced or how many remain. Speedwell Mini. Speedwell, originally known for their extensive conversions of BMC cars like the A35 and Riley Elf that screamed on to 110 mph. Speedwell began creating Mini conversions and kits for owners in the early to mid 60s, with sprint kits for Minis converting them to twin 1.5-inch SU carburetors, as well as suspension, exhaust and other parts to turn your Mini into a pocket rocket. The firm would also offer fully converted cars as well, badged as Speedwell Minis. These cars had 109 mph top speed with a 1150 Group 3 Clubman engine with a light alloy head and twin AML carburetors. The fully converted cars were known as Speedwell Sprints. Sadly, due to the lack of documented history, it is not known how many of these cars or conversion kits were made, with Speedwell unfortunately going bust in 1969 to be resurrected again, and then finally it went bust for good in 1976. I'd like to cover Speedwell in more detail in its own dedicated video, so if you have any information please let me know in the comments. The Ogle design SX1000. In 1962, a Mini conversion like no other would be created by David Ogle, the founder of Ogle Design. This car would be based on the Mini Cooper, but designed as a lightweight coupe, with a fiberglass body, an O'Reilly windscreen, Mini chassis and a 998 A series. The car was priced at £1,190, which is around £31,000 in today's money, or you could have your Mini transformed into an SX1000 for £550. The SX1000 would go on to be developed further into the Ogle Lightweight GT, which had a built-in roll bar, lowered suspension and bucket seats. Sadly, David Ogle would be killed in a car accident in his lightweight GT on his way to Brands Hatch. The company then ceased production of the SX1000, with the last cars being completed in 1963. There are believed to be only 66 SX1000s in existence. Longman and Co. Richard Longman started his career at Downton Engineering, proving himself to be an incredible engineer and talented driver. In 1971, Richard Longman went on to found Longman and Co with Steve Harris and George Toth, both of which were from Downton Engineering as well. Richard Longman and Co went on to make a name for themselves for the quality of work they did and the sheer speed they achieved, with their brilliance turning into legend in 1979 and 1980. Where the team won the British Saloon Car Championship 2 years running. Longman & Co would then offer their talents to the public, supplying conversion kits and parts, including everything from seatbelts to lightweight coachwork and fully built engines. The company was finally closed in 2009, which is a true testament to Longman & Co.'s engineering. The Mini, however small and humble, is one of the mainstays of not just British car history, but the rest of the car world as we know it. Production of the Mini would even outlast its replacement, the Metro, with the final classic Mini rolling off the Longbridge production line in 2000, after being produced for 41 years. This small car has a big history and one that I hope to continue covering. This isn't the last of this series of Mini conversions and special models, so look forward to a part 2.